Warning: what you're about to see in this video will leave you speechless. Every twist, every choice could change our heroine's life forever. By the end, you'll be shocked, because what seemed impossible becomes reality. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to support our work and never miss a single thrilling story. Your support is what allows us to keep bringing you stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. So buckle up. Let's get started. The wind screamed like a living thing, tearing through my ears and whipping my hair into my face. The ocean below was no longer a calm expanse of blue. It had become a gaping, black mouth, ready to swallow anything that dared come near. The air was thick with salt and fear, each breath stinging my lungs. I gripped the edge of the cliff, feeling the rough stone under my fingers, my heart hammering as if it were trying to escape my chest. We had come seeking escape, a getaway from the dull routine of life, a chance to feel alive. But the world we had imagined was gone. What lay before us now was raw, untamed, and merciless. Every step I took felt heavier than the last, as if the wind itself were trying to push me off balance. Behind me, my husband's eyes were wide, reflecting the same terror I felt, a terror I had never seen in him before. The waves crashed violently against the rocks below, each roar echoing up to the cliffs like a challenge. I could feel the cold spray against my skin, numbing my face, and I shivered despite my jacket. It wasn't just the cold, it was the knowledge that nature did not care about us. It never had. Survival here wasn't about strength. It was about timing, instinct, and sheer stubbornness. I took a tentative step forward, my boots scraping against the stone. The wind grabbed me, forcing me to stumble, and I barely caught myself. My chest tightened, and for a moment, I wondered if this was where it would end. One careless step, one misjudged move, and the ocean would claim me. Yet even as fear clawed at my mind, there was a spark of exhilaration. This was life in its purest form, raw, dangerous, and unfiltered. My husband reached for my hand, his fingers brushing mine. His grip was both an anchor and a lifeline. We exchanged no words. None were necessary. The storm, the roaring waves, the edge of the world itself, those were enough to communicate what we were feeling. But in that silent acknowledgement, I realized something profound. We were not just standing on the edge of the cliff, we were standing on the edge of everything we had known. Behind us, the forest fell away into shadows, mysterious and deep, hiding things I didn't want to think about. Ahead, the horizon seemed infinite, a line where sky and water collided in a violent, beautiful chaos. I felt both terrified and alive in equal measure, a strange cocktail that left my hands shaking and my mind racing. Each second stretched endlessly, every heartbeat a drum in the symphony of fear that surrounded us. And then it hit me, this was not just a trip, not just an adventure. It was a test. A trial we hadn't anticipated, one that demanded courage we hadn't yet discovered in ourselves. Every scream of the wind, every jagged wave below, every tremble in my legs reminded me that life was fragile. And yet, somehow, in the midst of this terrifying beauty, I felt the first glimmer of strength. The edge of the world was not just a place, it was a mirror. It reflected everything I feared, everything I was, and everything I could become. And standing there, at the very precipice, I made a silent promise to myself. I would survive. Whatever it took, however impossible it seemed, I would not fall. Because sometimes, standing at the edge is the only way to truly understand what it means to live. Darkness had a weight all its own. The forest pressed in around us, thick with shadows that seemed to move when I blinked. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig felt like a warning. My chest ached from adrenaline, my hands still shaking from the edge of the world. I thought I had survived the cliff, but the night was far from forgiving. We moved quietly, almost gliding through the underbrush. My husband, Musa, led the way, eyes scanning the darkness, ears tuned to the smallest sounds. I followed, trying to match his calm, though inside, my heart pounded like a drum. The forest was alive, whispering secrets in languages I couldn't understand. And I wasn't alone. I could feel it. Eyes watching, waiting, calculating. Suddenly, A low growl cut through the night. I froze, the sound echoing through the trees. Musa stiffened beside me, signaling me to stay silent. The growl was close, too close, and yet, it wasn't from an animal. Someone, or something, was out there, tracking us. My stomach twisted with fear. We had escaped the cliff, yes, but now the hunt had begun. Branches clawed at my arms and face as we pressed forward. My breaths came in short, ragged gasps. Each step was a negotiation with the earth below. Roots and stones threatened to betray me with every misstep. And then I saw the flash, a glint of metal catching the faint moonlight. A weapon. "Stay behind me," Musa whispered, voice low but firm. I nodded, my throat too dry to respond. Every instinct screamed to run, but we couldn't, at least, not yet. The shadows were patient. They knew we would make mistakes. A figure emerged briefly, shrouded in black, moving with impossible speed. My mind registered 4 shapes, then 5. They were professionals. No hesitation, no fear. Just precise, calculated movement, like predators closing in on their prey. I pressed myself against a tree, trying to become invisible, feeling the rough bark bite into my skin. The forest was alive, but it offered no protection, only illusion. We ducked behind a fallen log as the footsteps drew near. My pulse raced, my fingers numb with tension. Musa placed a hand on my shoulder, grounding me. "We have to survive the night," he murmured. "Not tomorrow, not the cliff. We make it through this first." His eyes were sharp, unwavering, a compass in the chaos. I clung to his words as if they were a lifeline. Shots rang out suddenly, deafening in the still night. I screamed, ducking instinctively, as the sound of splintering would fill the forest. Bullets tore through branches, scattering leaves like rain. Musa grabbed me, dragging me low, moving faster than I thought possible. The shadows chased, relentless, but the forest itself seemed to aid us, hiding our path in darkness and silence. After what felt like hours, but was only minutes, we reached a small clearing. The moonlight spilled over a narrow dirt path leading to safety, just beyond the trees. We stopped, gasping, bodies trembling. My hands were scratched, my clothes torn, but for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. "They lost us for now," Musa said, eyes scanning the treeline. "But they'll come back. And next time, they won't be so careless." I nodded, swallowing the fear rising in my throat. The night had shown me one thing. Survival was no longer just about escaping danger, it was about outsmarting it. And as we moved silently toward the faint light at the edge of the forest, I realized the truth. The shadows were never just around us. They were inside us, testing every choice, every heartbeat. And only the clever, the patient, the daring, could hope to win. Dawn arrived like a hesitant witness, its pale light spilling over the horizon, revealing the aftermath of the night. My body ached, bruised and battered, yet my mind was sharper than ever. The forest no longer felt like a cage. It felt like a chessboard. Every shadow, every rustle was a move I had to anticipate. I had survived the cliff, the bullets, the shadows. But now I realized, surviving wasn't enough. I had to fight back. Musa guided me through narrow backroads, away from the city's reach. We moved in silence, but our eyes were wide open, scanning every car, every passerby, every flicker of movement. Whoever was hunting us had resources. And patience. I remembered Cal's smirk, his confidence, and I shivered. But that fear no longer controlled me. Fear could be a tool. It could sharpen the mind if wielded correctly. We reached a small, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Its walls were crumbling, the windows dusted with years of neglect. Yet inside, it felt like a sanctuary, a neutral ground where we could breathe, regroup, and plan. Musa pulled out a small, battered laptop, its screen flickering to life. Maps, photos, and intercepted messages glared at me, revealing the network we were up against. Cal wasn't acting alone. He was the tip of a well-oiled machine. "They're organized," Musa said, voice low. Every move we've made, they've anticipated. But they underestimate patience and timing. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. The night had taught me the rhythm of fear, the rise, the pause, the strike. Now, it was time to invert it, to turn anticipation into advantage. A soft buzz from my phone broke the tense silence. An unknown number flashed on the screen. My stomach tightened. I answered cautiously. "Zainab," a familiar voice whispered. "Calm. Calculated." My heart skipped. I know where they are weakest. It was Tantola. She outlined a plan, precise and dangerous, exploiting cracks in Cal's surveillance, weaknesses in his network, and the one leverage he never considered, timing and unpredictability. Each word was a lifeline, each pause a calculated warning. My pulse raced, but my mind felt razor-sharp. This was no longer about running. It was about outsmarting him. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the dilapidated warehouse, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. We were no longer the hunted. We were strategists now, moving pieces on a board only we fully understood. Cal's arrogance, his reliance on fear and control, had blinded him. And I had learned to weaponize what he thought was my weakness: survival instinct, intuition, and the patience of someone who had nothing left to lose. Musa and I worked through the morning, rehearsing our moves, memorizing every detail. Every potential ambush, every escape route, every distraction. By noon, I felt a strange calm settle over me, a clarity that only comes when the storm has passed enough to reveal the eye. And as we peered out through a cracked window, watching the city move unaware, I understood the truth. Survival had been the first challenge. Outmaneuvering him would be the second. And the storm wasn't over, it had only just begun. Night fell like a curtain, draping the city in darkness. The streets, once lively and loud, were now silent, shadowed, and waiting, just like us. Musa and I moved through the alleys, silent, alert, each step calculated. Every corner, every flicker of light, every distant footstep could signal an ambush. Tonight, we were no longer hiding. Tonight, we were hunting. The Lagoon View Hotel had become our target, not to storm, not to destroy, but to infiltrate, to expose. Cal's confidence, once a fortress, now had cracks, and we intended to slip through them. Tantola's plan played in my mind like a meticulous dance. Timing, deception, misdirection. The perfect storm of strategy and instinct. As we approached the hotel, Musa glanced at me. "Ready?" His voice was low, steady. I nodded. I had been ready for this moment my entire life, though I didn't know it yet. Fear had been a teacher, survival a mentor, and now courage, the kind that doesn't roar but moves silently, guided me. Inside, the lobby gleamed deceptively, the chandeliers sparkling like stars trapped in crystal. Guests murmured, oblivious, their laughter a cruel contrast to the danger we carried. Cal was waiting somewhere above, confident, smiling that same smug smile. But he hadn't accounted for shadows. Shadows that weren't empty, shadows that could strike. We moved with precision, avoiding cameras, guards, and the faint creak of the old floors. Every step, every breath, was synchronized with Tantola's instructions. The hotel, once a fortress, now felt like a labyrinth we controlled. Then we saw him, Cal, standing near the private elevator, dossier in hand, phone glowing in his palm. His smile faltered for a fraction of a second. I felt it, the shift. He realized he was no longer the predator. We were inside his game now. "Zainab," he said, voice smooth but tinged with unease. "You shouldn't have come alone." "I didn't," I replied, almost whispering, but loud enough to carry. Behind me, Musa activated a series of devices Tantola had prepared. Alarms, cameras, and digital traps that froze communications and monitored every exit. Cal's eyes widened as his phone vibrated uncontrollably, messages cascading in red alert. "You think you're clever," he said, a hint of panic creeping into his calm. "This is my world." "Your world ended the moment you underestimated patience," I said, stepping forward, dossier in hand. And timing. And people who don't fear you. Guards tried to move, but the shadows moved faster. Musa intercepted, neutralized, and signaled us forward. Cal's confidence crumbled under the pressure, and I saw it. Fear, real and raw, replacing the arrogance he had worn like armor. "You still don't understand," he hissed, "what you've unleashed." "I do," I said, placing the dossier on the table. "It's over. Not because you lost power, but because you underestimated the will to survive, and the strategy to win." Cal's hands trembled. His empire of intimidation, carefully built, was unraveling around him, not with violence, but with precision. And in that moment, I realized that true power wasn't control or fear. It was knowledge, timing, and courage wielded silently but decisively. The game had changed. The shadows weren't empty. They were alive. And we were no longer the hunted. The first light of dawn stretched over the horizon, painting the city in soft gold and silver. After the storm of the night, the streets felt different. Quieter, calmer, as if the world itself exhaled. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe without looking over my shoulder. We left the hotel quietly, stepping into the early morning. Musa stayed beside me, vigilant but relaxed now. Tantola's instructions had been precise, and every step we had taken unfolded like a dance. The dossier, the documents, the evidence, all secured. Cal's empire, built on fear, was now exposed for the world to see. But the victory wasn't just about papers or money. It was about survival, about reclaiming agency over my own life. Every step I took away from that hotel was a step toward freedom, toward a horizon I had never imagined possible when the ocean had swallowed me before. We drove in silence for a while, the road stretching endlessly. The car's engine hummed like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. I placed a hand over my stomach, feeling the small life growing there. Protecting this child had been the true motivation all along. Cal had never known the ultimate leverage he could have used, but I had guarded it, silently, fiercely. At a secluded beach, far from prying eyes, Tantola waited. She smiled softly as we arrived, her presence a constant anchor through every storm. "It's done," I whispered, my voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. "For now," she replied, her eyes scanning the horizon. "But remember, Zainab, freedom isn't just about escaping. It's about what you do next." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. The past months, the terror, the chase, it had changed me. I wasn't just the girl who had fallen from the sky. I was someone who had navigated danger, deceit, and betrayal, and emerged with her heart, mind, and will intact. The ocean stretched before us, endless and serene. I knelt by the water's edge, letting the waves lap at my feet, each ripple washing away remnants of fear, of doubt, of pain. Musa stood behind me, protective yet respectful of the moment. The horizon was mine now, untamed and vast, filled with possibility. A message came through my phone, simple and anonymous. "You've done what many could not. Now live." I allowed myself a small smile. It wasn't the end of the world, but it was the beginning of my own. As we turned to leave, I glanced back once more at the ocean. Somewhere out there, Cal's shadow lingered, but it no longer held power over me. The past was a chapter, the present a choice, and the future, a horizon I would define. I held my stomach again, whispering softly, "We are free, and we will write our own story." The car drove off slowly, leaving footprints in the sand that the tide would soon erase, but the memories of triumph and resilience would remain. Behind me, Tantola followed, silent and proud, a reminder that allies and strategy could turn even the darkest nights into dawn. The horizon was no longer a boundary. It was a promise. And for the first time, I felt the profound truth of those words. I had survived. I had fought. And now, I was unstoppable.